A maid expresses her concern when she notices blood on Lady Serena's face, but Serena herself seems completely undisturbed by it. The story then transitions to the past, revealing that Serena was formerly a deadly assassin who is shown holding a blood-stained dagger. It becomes clear that she was reincarnated into her current life after failing an assassination mission where she was wounded. In a flashback to that previous life, she is seen carrying out her job with cold efficiency. Her target, a man with a prominent mustache, desperately begs for his life from a balcony inside a grand library, but she eliminates him without hesitation. After completing her mission, she calmly spots some bread on a plate and thinks about how long it has been since she had anything decent to eat. She then wipes the blood from her knife before taking a bite of the bread. The narrative delves deeper into her past, showing her receiving a critical assignment to assassinate the crown prince. Her superior explains that the security is incredibly tight and she is the only one capable of succeeding. She accepts the mission without fear, viewing killing as merely her job and understanding that death is simply a result of being weak. The scene shifts to her confronting the crown prince and his guards outside a castle at night. She acknowledges the skill of his retainers as a knight with light hair steps forward to protect the prince. When she threatens the knight, he refuses to back down. The knight states he would gladly give his life for the prince, a sentiment the assassin finds bizarre as she cannot comprehend the idea of dying for another person. The ensuing fight led to them killing each other, and as she died, she reflected that she didn't fear death and was only defeated because she was too weak to live. The story returns to her new life, where she has been reborn into a noble family. She is now known as Serena Violet, a young girl from a ducal household in the kingdom of Astra. Her current life is one of immense luxury and comfort, a stark contrast to her previous existence as an orphan from the slums who had to kill just to survive. Serena feels that her past experiences have made her quite adaptable, and she is managing well in her role as a young noble lady. One day, while she is having a tea party with her mother, a dog suddenly runs up and begins barking at them. Reacting on instinct, Serena swiftly attacks the whimpering dog with a knife, leaving her mother and the maids staring in absolute shock. Serena, holding the bloody knife, is genuinely confused by their horrified reactions. Her mother calls her actions cruel, but Serena defends herself by stating that the dog charged at her first. Serena privately thinks that nobles are irrational and live in a fantasy world, completely detached from reality. To manage the situation, she quickly changes her demeanor, pretending to be a frightened child and apologizing to her mother. Her mother embraces her, saying it's okay because she was scared, but sternly tells her never to do it again. Serena internally questions her mother's worldview, comparing her to the knight who was willing to die for someone else, a concept she still cannot grasp. Just then, a little girl arrives, calling out for her dog, Bruce. The girl is horrified to see her dog injured, and Serena's mother kindly offers to bring them inside to help. Serena quietly warns her mother that this could be a trick, as using children to lower a target's guard is a basic infiltration tactic. She is baffled by her mother's apparent lack of awareness of danger and notes to herself that she had fully intended to kill the dog, which surprisingly survived. Looking at her own hand, Serena realizes her new body is far more powerless than she anticipated, as even a cake knife and her full body weight weren't enough for a clean kill. She resolves to strengthen herself, finding it unacceptable to be unable to defend herself properly. She is later surprised to learn that her family has decided to adopt the commoner girl, whose name is Rosemary. Her mother explains that Rosemary is an orphan and that she felt it was fate that her dog wandered into their garden. Rosemary introduces herself as Serena's new sister, while Serena privately wonders if being wealthy makes people so incredibly naive. Serena decides to play the part of a normal girl for the time being. Rosemary, with her sad story and childish charm, quickly wins over the adults in the household. However, the maids are now wary of Serena and have been avoiding her ever since she stabbed the dog. 6 years pass, and Serena realizes that Rosemary's presence is actually a blessing in disguise. It gives her the perfect cover to be alone and train her body, since a duke's daughter engaging in physical training would otherwise seem strange. Now 12 years old, Serena has diligently performed basic exercises to regain some of her former strength and skill. She practices her aim by throwing a knife at a tree, satisfied that she can now use both hands proficiently. With the adults preoccupied with Rosemary, Serena has the freedom to train. She knows a kitchen knife is a poor weapon and is frustrated by the lack of real weapons in the mansion. She remembers how nobles are often targets for assassins due to political conflicts and for bandits because of their wealth, making a proper weapon essential for self-defense. Determined to be prepared, Serena decides to buy a weapon herself. She disguises herself as a commoner, sells some jewels for cash, and sneaks out of the mansion to a weapon shop in town. She plans to buy a dagger, a weapon she was very familiar with in her past life. Inside the shop, she finds a dagger that is light enough for her current body to handle. The shopkeeper, seeing a child, dismisses her and tells her to go home, refusing to sell a weapon to a brat. When Serena insists on buying it, he ignores her. Losing her patience, Serena expertly flicks a coin, embedding it in the wall right beside the shocked shopkeeper's head. With a chillingly intense gaze, she demands that he give her the dagger. The terrified man immediately complies, timidly asking if she'd like it wrapped. As she leaves, Serena sighs in frustration at how her small body creates such annoying obstacles. Suddenly, a man with braided black hair appears and compliments her on her impressive skill, noting she seems very experienced. Serena assesses him and realizes he is also highly skilled, recognizing that he had aimed for a vital spot. From his noble attire and powerful presence, she instantly identifies him as one of her own kind, an assassin. The man reveals that he knows exactly who she is, calling her Lady Serena of the Violet Ducal House despite her disguise. He explains that his duties require him to be able to identify all high-ranking nobles on sight. He then introduces himself as Rick Oswald, the king's nephew, who has a reputation for being a shady character, and tells her he's going to be direct with her. A man with long dark hair welcomes a young blonde girl into his hideout, telling her to make herself comfortable. Watching them is Serena, a young girl who recognizes the place as a secret guild for assassins and realizes with surprise that its leader is the king's own nephew. She understands that his purpose is to protect the kingdom by moving in the shadows and making any threats to the king or kingdom disappear. Serena then asks him directly what task he has for her. The man seems surprised that a duke's daughter is seeking him out, but he quickly dismisses her status, stating that her age and rank are irrelevant because he believes she is already skilled enough to take on missions. Serena reflects internally that the strategy of using children seems to be a common practice. The leader explains that they are short-handed and asks if she will lend her abilities for the sake of their kingdom. Serena considers his proposition, thinking that although she never intended to return to the world of assassination, this might be the best way to keep her skills from fading away. She continues to weigh her options, realizing that killing people who pose a threat to the country would ultimately create a safer environment for her family and for herself as well. The leader presses for an answer, promising to pay her anything she wants and provide any help she needs. Serena agrees to his deal but raises a concern about her duties as a duke's daughter, explaining that she is under constant supervision and cannot simply leave home whenever she pleases. The leader smiles, assuring her that this problem can be easily solved since she is about the same age as a girl named Shia, whom he then calls forward. He introduces Shia as a master of disguise and explains that she can serve as Serena's body double while she is away on missions. Shia, now transformed to look exactly like Serena, appears and greets them, prompting a surprised Serena to ask if she can also change her voice. The leader confirms this, pointing to a mana stone necklace Shia is wearing that allows her to alter her voice. Serena recognizes the mana stone as a precious artifact from an ancient civilization and thinks that possessing such a rare item is to be expected from the leader of an assassination guild. The leader mysteriously comments that there are many things in the world better left unknown. Serena feels she is far from a typical duke's daughter and asks him if he has any questions for her, but she also decides he is a strange man and it's best not to look too deeply into his secrets. The leader simply tells her that he will be depending on her from now on. Later at her home, a maid whispers to Serena that she has secretly brought Shia in for a tour. Their quiet moment is interrupted by an argument between Serena's younger sister, Rosemary, and her brother, Alto, as Rosemary accuses him of hating her for being a former commoner. A maid explains to Serena that the argument was between Master Alto and her younger sister, Rosemary, and comments that Alto was being a bit too harsh. Inside a room, Serena's mother, Amaryllis, speaks with Alto, complaining that her husband is rarely home because of his work. She expresses her frustration over her husband adopting a girl without her permission, especially now that she hears the girl is being lazy with her studies. Amaryllis worries about the rumors that will spread if their adopted daughter fails to meet the minimal educational standards of a noble. From behind a corner, Serena and Shia overhear the conversation. Amaryllis continues, saying they cannot just send the girl back to being a commoner without causing damaging rumors. She concludes that their only course of action is to educate her to the minimum level expected of a duke's daughter and then marry her off to a noble of a lower rank. Serena's father then appears, agreeing with the plan but adding that he only adopted the girl because he felt she was pitiful. The father turns to his wife, Amaryllis, and says that while he admires her desire to save someone, she must not forget her responsibility to their real daughter, Serena. He promises to try his best to treat the adopted girl as his own child and then asks his son, Alto, when he last spoke with Serena. Serena, still listening from the hallway, feels indifferent, thinking to herself that she doesn't mind if her family doesn't speak to her. Amaryllis looks deeply troubled and even questions if Serena is truly her child. Her husband firmly insists that Serena is their flesh and blood. Amaryllis confesses that she is scared because she can never understand what Serena is thinking, unlike with Rosemary, whom she can easily handle by simply giving her attention. Trying to comfort his wife, the father suggests that she is just overworked with household duties and that girls at that age can be difficult. He tells her she can always talk to him when things get hard and apologizes to Alto for acting on his own, promising to spend more time with the family. Meanwhile, Serena reflects on her own identity, acknowledging that while she was born from Amaryllis, her true self is an assassin from the slums, and she believes someone like her can't live a sheltered life far from the gutter. The leader of the assassins, Rick, cheerfully announces to Serena that with her double, Shia, now in place, it is time for her first mission. He explains that the target is a Baron's family of 4 who have been causing trouble, and Serena accepts the assignment without asking for any reasons, stating that if it's a mission, she will do it. This straightforward response pleases Rick, who remarks that it makes things easier for him before entrusting the task to her as the scene shifts to the unsuspecting family having dinner. Disguised as a maid, Serena enters the dining room with a tea service, surprising the Baroness who says she didn't ask for any. In a swift and brutal sequence, Serena kills the parents, their screams echoing through the room as their children watch in horror. The dying Baroness desperately offers to pay Serena any amount of money to spare her, a plea Serena internally notes she has heard many times before in her past life. The Baron, in a cowardly act, then begs for his own life, offering his son and daughter to the assassin in his place. His children are stunned by their father's betrayal as he shouts that kids are only valuable when they can be used by adults. Serena coldly questions the Baron's assertion that he is more valuable than his children simply because of his noble status. She reflects on the nature of life and death, stating that everyone eventually dies and that no human has intrinsic value. She wonders aloud if he contributed to the kingdom or changed history, and if he truly possessed such value, why the Almighty would allow him to perish. Holding her blood-stained dagger, she concludes that the answer is simple. With the final declaration that he is worthless, Serena kills the Baron. She looks upon the lifeless bodies of the family, thinking they are no different from the corpses of children in the slums and that all life, human or animal, is equally without worth. She wonders why so many nobles consider themselves to be so special. After completing her mission, Serena stands outside the grand mansion as it is consumed by flames, musing to herself that nobles are a strange bunch. Back at the hideout, Rick congratulates her on her first job, confirming the mission was a success. Elsewhere, a maid tells Shia, who is still disguised as Serena, that her father, Alto, had been asking for her multiple times. Shia internally thinks that Alto didn't need to keep his promise about spending more time with them. Rick expresses his curiosity about Serena, asking her how old she is. When she replies that she is 12, he seems intrigued. Serena reminds him of their agreement not to ask questions, and while he says he will leave it alone, he still wonders what she is. Rick then departs with Shia. A few weeks pass, and Alto has to go abroad again for work. As the family sees Alto off, he asks his wife, Amaryllis, to take care of the children. Serena watches and sighs, thinking things would be easier without him around. Her father then calls her name, startling her, and pulls her into a hug. He tells her to speak up if she ever has anything to say and promises to do whatever he can for her if it would help her achieve her goals. Serena feels the warmth from her father's embrace. She finds the sensation of being hugged uncomfortable but not disgusting, something she feels she will never get used to. Her younger sister, Rosemary, then asks their father for a hug as well. After embracing Rosemary, Alto bids farewell to his family and departs. Standing next to her sister, Serena reflects that she is still not accustomed to the life of nobility or being held by someone. She remembers the Baron begging for his life and contrasts him with Alto, also comparing Alto to the parents from her previous life who abandoned her. She concludes that Alto is a much better parent and that she was blessed to have been born into this family. She even thinks that she might have been able to live a happy life among them if only she didn't have the memories of her past. However, this moment of peace is shattered when Rosemary starts crying, falsely accusing Serena of stealing her necklace. In an instant, Serena's feelings change completely as she thinks to herself that she takes it all back and could never have truly fit into this world. A commoner girl named Rosemary, who reflects on her incredible turn of fortune. After her parents passed away in an accident, she was adopted into a noble household, becoming a duke's daughter and feeling like a fairy tale princess surrounded by maids in a beautiful dress. However, her new life is not without conflict, centering on the duke's biological daughter, a serious-looking girl with dark hair named Serena Violet. Rosemary secretly resents Serena, considering her arrogant and stuck-up, and even blames her for harming her dog, Bruce. Despite believing she is much better than the surly Serena, Rosemary is frustrated because she feels their father loves Serena more, a feeling underscored by an image of the Duke warmly embracing his biological daughter. The tension comes to a head when Serena is publicly accused of theft. A blonde maid declares that Rosemary's necklace was discovered inside Lady Serena's desk, presenting this as undeniable proof of her guilt. Serena remains composed, calmly questioning why she is being presumed guilty when no one actually witnessed her stealing anything. As the maid, Marin, tries to interject, Serena sharply rebukes her for daring to intrude on a family conversation, questioning when a mere maid became part of the ducal family. Rosemary quickly jumps to the maid's defense, telling her big sister, Serena, that she shouldn't discriminate against people because of their status. Serena looks menacingly at the pair, commenting on the nice combination they make and warning that if a maid were to interrupt royalty without permission, her head would roll then and there, causing the maid to recoil in terror. Returning to the matter of the necklace, Rosemary insists that the proof is that it was found in Serena's room. Serena flatly denies stealing it and cleverly turns the accusation around, suggesting that she has no idea how it got there and that perhaps Rosemary planted it herself or had one of the maids do it for her. Outraged, Rosemary shouts that Serena can't just accuse people like that. Serena, turning her back, coolly points out the hypocrisy in Rosemary's statement, as Rosemary was the one who started the entire situation by accusing her first. She adds that it would be simple for someone to sneak into her room and hide the necklace and that it seems Rosemary has plenty of people who would do her bidding. Flustered and cornered, Rosemary resorts to a personal attack, pointing a finger and declaring that Serena is only saying these hurtful things because she is jealous of her. Serena appears genuinely baffled by this claim, thinking to herself that while she has felt hostility from Rosemary, she cannot recall ever starting a fight with her. She then asks aloud just what about Rosemary she is supposed to be jealous of. When Serena calmly denies feeling any jealousy or spite, Rosemary twists her words, accusing Serena of looking down on her because she was a commoner. Rosemary then launches into a passionate speech, clenching her fists and shouting that nobles like Serena, who have never had to starve or drink gutter water, could never understand the hardships commoners face. A brief flashback reveals that Serena had already investigated Rosemary's past through a man named Rick. His findings showed that Rosemary came from an ordinary family that was neither poor nor rich. She even had the opportunity for an education, a luxury not afforded to truly destitute children who must work from a young age. The truth is that Rosemary is the one who shouldn't know what real hardship or the taste of gutter water is like. Back in the present, Serena's patience snaps. She suddenly grabs a screaming Rosemary and begins dragging her outside, ignoring a man's shout to stop the violence. With a chillingly calm demeanor, Serena tells him not to worry, as she isn't about to harm a human in front of everyone. She points to a mud puddle formed from the previous day's rain and declares that while it may not be the gutter, it will give Rosemary the taste she claims to know so well. Then, with a haunting smile, Serena reveals that unlike Rosemary, she knows exactly what starvation feels like and what gutter water tastes like, before asking the horrified girl how she enjoys her very first taste of the gutter. While standing in a room, Shia reports to Serena, explaining that a woman named Rosemary is trying to make Serena look like a villainess. This behavior apparently started ever since Serena taught Rosemary what the gutter tastes like, and it has become a usual thing for her now. Serena realizes that this is Rosemary's plan to hide her past as a commoner and make herself look good by gaining favor with the people in the mansion. Serena smiles to herself, thinking it is a good plan because Rosemary has successfully wrapped both Amaryllis and the maids around her little finger. Shia adds that as a result, Amaryllis has been avoiding Serena like the plague, which Serena admits makes things much easier for her. Shia confirms that she also noticed Amaryllis had not come looking for Serena recently. Just then, Shia relays a message from Rick about a mission he wants to send Serena on the next day. The scene changes to a terrified man gasping for breath as he desperately calls out for help from someone he knows is strong. Serena appears in a dark hallway, and the man falls to the ground before her. She then swiftly stabs him from behind as he staggers and cries out in pain. As the man lies dying on the floor, Serena looks down and asks why he bothered to run when he was going to die anyway. In the background, a small, captive child sits against the wall with a shackle on his ankle. A full view shows the young, disheveled boy chained to a heavy ball, sitting alone on the cold stone floor near the dead man's body. Serena looks at the boy, observing his weary expression and realizing he is a child who is being held as a slave. She then walks toward him and extends her hand in an offering of help, asking if he wants to come with her. A later thought reveals that even Serena did not understand why she offered her hand to him that day. The boy accepts her offer by taking her hand, leaving his open shackle and chain behind on the floor as he goes with her. A young girl with two-toned hair stands next to a boy with dark, messy hair and visible injuries on his face and body. In the next scene, she has brought the boy before a man with long black hair and a fur-collared coat who is sitting at a desk. The man asks her why she brought the boy there, and she explains that she found him in the target's dungeon, while she herself quietly wonders about her own reasons. The man looks closely at the boy and notes his black hair and red eyes, concluding that he must be a child from the warring tribe with no mistake. He then questions why a child like him was in a dungeon as the boy stands beside the girl looking downcast. The narrative explains that the warring tribe was known for being a militant group whose members possessed strength beyond human norms, and they were eventually destroyed by a coalition of their neighboring countries. The man at the desk continues to speculate about the boy's past, suggesting that given his age, he must have been just a child when his tribe was destroyed and was probably caught alive to be sold to a slave trader. The boy's slight flinch confirms the man's guess was accurate. The man then asks the boy, who he guesses is around 16, why he didn't try to escape his captors. With a deeply saddened expression, the boy reveals that he has nowhere to run and then confesses with tears in his eyes that he killed a man. A flashback begins, showing a younger version of the boy named Tiger amidst chaos as his home is attacked. The attackers shout that the tribe members are monsters and that this is for all the people they killed. The scene returns to the present as the man explains that the warring tribe was cruel to everyone but their own people and was therefore greatly resented. In the flashback, a woman who appears to be Tiger's mother hands him a large axe, telling him that as a man of his tribe, he must take down at least one enemy with him. The flashback continues with his people, including his parents, charging into battle against an overwhelming number of enemies. Young Tiger is terrified and can't understand why they are so willing to die in a battle they clearly cannot win, questioning their belief that dying in combat is the right thing to do. Scared and alone, the young boy hides and cries for someone to help him, but he is quickly discovered by an enemy soldier who grabs him. As the soldier seizes him, the terrified boy swings the axe and strikes a person in a hooded robe, who curses him for being a brat. Tiger explains in the present that he doesn't remember what happened after that moment. The next thing he knew, he was being sold repeatedly as a slave from one master to another, and he feels he must keep waiting for his time to pass because he needs to pay for the crime he committed. Back in the present, the girl looks surprised by his story and simply asks if that's it, while the man at the desk laughs. Tiger is distraught and questions how he is supposed to live a happy life after having killed someone. The girl challenges his despair, asking if holding on to those stupid values makes him feel any better and questioning his belief that it is always wrong to kill people. She continues her point, stating that the only people who say such things are delusional individuals who have lived protected lives in a pretty world. She reflects that in her previous life, many people told her that murder is wrong, but she believes this world is not a fairy tale. She explains that if people with such naive beliefs were ever truly threatened, they would just lie down and die. Because of this, she tells Tiger there is no need for him to feel guilty or to force himself to justify his actions. The girl tells him that if he had not killed that person on that day, he would have been killed instead, and he should find comfort and solace in that simple fact. After listening to the whole story, the man at the desk remarks that the boy doesn't look like he can fight in his current state, so putting him to work for the guild isn't an option. He then smiles and tells the girl that according to the guild's finders keepers policy, the boy is now her responsibility. The girl looks at the crying boy and acknowledges that it's true she brought him there, thinking that if he was powerful, she could find some use for him. A young woman with dark hair came across a runaway slave who had narrowly escaped with his life, and she considered making him her personal butler. She welcomed the boy into her home with a kind expression and expressed sympathy for the hardships he must have endured. She informed him that his primary job would be to take care of her and then asked if he knew how to read and write. While the boy shook his head, she decided she would teach him everything he needed to know, including proper etiquette to meet the high standards of a ducal household. She reassured him that she would never ask him to help her kill anyone, but she insisted that he must master self-defense for his own protection. From that day forward, the girl, named Serena, began teaching the boy, whose name was Tiger, a wide variety of subjects. Tiger proved to be an earnest student who learned very quickly, taking to his studies like a fish to water as Serena instructed him at his desk. She also taught him how to maintain a better posture, which he readily accepted, and she discovered he was a natural prodigy with weapons, which was expected given his lineage. One day, a younger girl with pigtails named Rosemary noticed burn marks on Tiger's face and asked about them with a concerned look. She immediately assumed her big sister Serena was responsible and felt sorry for him, while wishing her sister would learn something about working hard. Rosemary continued to complain that her sister was the worst and that she was always being bullied by her too, as Tiger sat quietly reading a book. Just then, Serena appeared and told Rosemary to stop bothering others while they were working, causing Tiger to look up flustered and address her as Lady Serena. Serena praised Tiger for finishing his studies, which made him smile warmly as he felt appreciated. She then turned to Rosemary, who was trying to take a small break, and pointed out that her teacher was looking for her because she was procrastinating again. Serena commented on Rosemary's long break and mentioned hearing that she was far behind other children her age, wondering when she planned to catch up. Rosemary defended herself by saying she used to be a commoner, unlike children of noble birth. Serena responded sternly, asking how long Rosemary intended to use her past as an excuse now that she was a duke's daughter. She bluntly told Rosemary that if she couldn't act the part she could go back to being a commoner, and that if she disliked the situation she should start putting in real effort. Visibly upset and crying, Rosemary yelled that she hated her big sister before running away. After Rosemary left, Tiger asked Serena if it was fine to leave things like that, but Serena only sighed and predicted that her sister would go running to their mother again. Tiger found it strange because even though Serena was the heir and the real child, it seemed like the adopted child Rosemary was treated like the true daughter. He thought about how Serena's harsh words caused these situations, yet she never tried to clear up any misunderstandings, allowing herself to become isolated. When he wondered why, Serena explained that it was too much work to explain everything, especially to her mother. She added that she didn't care what others thought and actually found being left alone to be a good thing, which made Tiger wonder if she disliked her mother. Tiger reflected on Lady Serena, realizing that despite only knowing her for a short time, she was a mysterious person who was not only the Duke's daughter but also an assassin. He noted that she was younger than him but spoke like an adult and seemed to have a difficult time living in the household. This growing understanding filled him with a desire to learn more about her and to stay close by her side. Filled with new resolve, Tiger declared that he would do his best to become more useful to Lady Serena so he could remain with her for a long time. Serena, slightly taken aback, thought to herself that she had no intention of sending him back to being a slave, and then told him his determination was good to hear and that she would be depending on him. Rick smiles and notes that Princess Serena's social debut is approaching while also observing that her butler Tiger has grown up splendidly. A woman sitting nearby remarks that Rick sounds like an old man as Serena sips her tea. Serena discusses her preparations with Rick, explaining that learning manners for tea parties isn't too hard because she doesn't mind studying when needed, but she admits that her only problem is Rosemary. The woman elaborates that Rosemary has no interest in learning the basic etiquette required to avoid offending anyone, and she worries their house might die of shame if Rosemary makes her debut in such a state. She mentions that Rosemary's tutor and even her mother have given up on teaching her. In a flashback, the woman is seen encouraging Rosemary to study by telling her about a very important tea party where the prince's potential fiancé will be decided, suggesting that they must take her studies seriously to avoid any problems. Rosemary is then shown innocently asking if she has a chance to become the prince's fiancé, which causes Serena to look completely exasperated at the mere thought of such a thing ever being allowed. Rick then changes the subject, asking Serena if the daughter of the Rodwell Marquez will also be attending the party, to which Serena confirms she will be. Rick looks serious and asks Serena to please keep an ear open for anything noteworthy at the event. The scene then transitions to a grand tea party where Rosemary looks around in awe, exclaiming how amazing it all is, while Serena stands beside her with a stoic expression, looking completely unimpressed by the lavish gathering. Serena internally worries that Rosemary, whom she calls an idiot girl, will do something wrong since she barely mastered the minimum required etiquette to attend. A young lady with long, flowing hair approaches them and asks if the girl is Lady Rosemary. Serena recognizes her as Lady Shenna of the Rodwell Marquez house and realizes she is the one Rick wanted her to keep an eye on. Lady Shenna mentions that she heard the Violet house adopted a commoner girl and was looking forward to meeting her. Rosemary, failing to notice the subtle insult, gets flustered and bites her tongue as she excitedly says it's an honor to meet her. Lady Shenna continues her passive-aggressive remarks, saying she is glad to see Rosemary could make it to the party with no shame despite her birth, an insult that Rosemary completely fails to notice. Serena internally observes that Lady Shenna is quite skilled at this social game of veiled insults. To change the subject, Serena compliments Lady Shenna on her beautiful dress. Shenna smiles and says it is a custom-made silk dress from the neighboring country of Muspel, adding that her father buys her a new one for every tea party because she is fond of the texture. Serena's expression grows serious as she processes this information, thinking that something is not right. She knows the Rodwell Marquez family primarily deals in weaponry, and in these peaceful times, their income should not be enough to afford such extravagant high-end dresses for every single party. She begins to wonder if they could be secretly selling weaponry to foreign powers, a serious crime that would get their heads rolling if it were true. As she contemplates whether this is what Rick wanted her to investigate, an announcement is made that the princes have arrived. A crowd of guests immediately forms around the princes, and Rosemary excitedly tells her big sister Serena that they need to go and greet them as well. Serena, however, sighs and says that having so many people around is too tiring, deciding she would rather go and rest somewhere else. She tells Rosemary she can go alone if she wants, and walks away, leaving Rosemary looking a bit apprehensive about being by herself. As Serena walks away to find a quiet spot, she is confronted by a group of noble ladies. One of them, identified as Lady Scarnet of the Jordan Earldom, mockingly questions if commoners these days are so lacking in manners as to ignore the princes. Another chimes in, suggesting that perhaps she knows her place as a commoner and is staying away. Serena realizes they have mistaken her for Rosemary but is internally furious that a daughter from a lower-ranking earldom dares to berate her. Serena's patience wears thin, and her expression darkens as she thinks about how tired she already is of these damn menaces coming at her one after another. Her inner thoughts turn murderous as she contemplates silencing their chirping permanently, viewing them as nothing more than useless porcelain dolls who can't do anything on their own. Just as her anger is about to boil over, a hand reaches out, and the calm voice of His Highness Prince Evan interrupts the confrontation. Serena looks up and recognizes the face of the first prince, wondering where she has seen him before. The noble ladies are instantly flustered and tell the prince they were simply educating this commoner on noble etiquette. Prince Evan calmly corrects their mistaken assumption, clarifying that she is no commoner before turning to her. He addresses her properly as Lady Serena of the Violet Duchy and asks if she is fine. Hiding her true feelings, Serena replies that everyone was treating her quite well. Suddenly, Rosemary rushes over and asks the prince if her sister has done something to cause trouble again, creating a moment of dead silence as Serena and the prince look on in disbelief. Serena, internally screaming at her bloody idiot sister for her foolishness in approaching the prince so abruptly, quickly grabs Rosemary. She offers the prince her sincerest apologies and explains that her sister is still lacking in manners and not yet ready to properly attend a tea party. Before announcing that they will be taking their early departure, a young girl cries out that she and her big sister just arrived at a tea party, but she is already being carried away by a man named Tiger. She struggles in his arms, complaining that it hurts and that she didn't even get a chance to eat any sweets, while in the background, a man and a woman in formal attire watch with shocked expressions. The girl's older sister, a dark-haired woman named Serena, instructs Tiger to leave with the child. As they walk away through a corridor, another woman calls out to Serena, asking why she is departing when the party is still in progress. Later, the younger sister is still pouting and exclaiming that she wanted to stay at the social function for a longer time. Serena, holding a cup, acknowledges that she also dislikes such events but gently tells her younger sister they should try to be a bit more sociable. The younger sister fumes, thinking that all they did was lose face and that her big sister's antisocial tendencies are the absolute worst. The girl, whose name is Rosemary, then yells at Serena, blaming her behavior on her ignorance of the struggles of common people. Serena calmly crosses her arms and responds that she is a former commoner and understands those hardships much better than Rosemary ever could. She tells Rosemary that if she wants to go back to being a commoner, she can, and Serena would even help her find a good job, adding that Rosemary is the one who doesn't want to leave her lavish lifestyle. The narrative states that the issue isn't really about sociability but rather Rosemary's own lack of common sense. Rosemary tearfully shouts that it's completely unfair to be treated this way just because she was born into a different background. Serena maintains a stern and unyielding expression as the narration explains that the world is an unfair place where one's circumstances are largely decided at birth. It continues by stating that if you cannot act like a noble, the other nobles will not accept you and will only look down on you, so if Rosemary insists on staying in this life, she must put in the effort it deserves. Later, an older woman gently tries to calm Serena down, suggesting they can overlook what happened just this once, while Serena thinks about how the girl disrespected the prince at the party. The older woman also expresses her hope that overlooking the incident won't lead to the ruin of their house. A bystander wonders if Rosemary might be the real daughter, as Tiger commends Serena for a job well done. Tiger mentions that he would have thought the madam would immediately assume the other girl was the real one. He explains that because the madam is a noble herself, her presence is different, and that the other girl lacks the distinct aura that nobility usually has. Serena ponders this, wondering why her mother doesn't seem to understand her words at all, even when what she's saying is correct from a noble's viewpoint. Tiger suggests that perhaps the way she speaks to her mother comes off as a little distant and that a softer approach might work better. Serena thoughtfully reflects on this, realizing that the way she says things could indeed be the problem. Tiger then reports that he passed on the information she gathered at the tea party to Lord Rick and that a new job will likely come from it. Serena sighs, thinking that families and mothers are just too complicated. She then concludes that, by comparison, an assassination is so much easier to handle. Sometime later, Serena sits at a table reading a newspaper while Tiger stands nearby. The headline declares that the Rodwell family was murdered during a robbery that went wrong. She discusses the news with Tiger, revealing that the family was apparently involved in the secret and illegal sale of weapons. They agree that bringing high-ranking aristocrats to a court of law would cause too much disruption to the kingdom, so they are dealt with in this manner instead. A smaller section of the article, shown alongside an image of a worried young woman surrounded by nuns, explains that the family's daughter, Shenna, was not involved in the incident and narrowly avoided the death penalty. As a result, she has renounced her name and joined a nunnery. The Rodwell family's power was then inherited by the late lord's younger brother, who is now under the close watch of the royal family. Tiger comments on how callous someone must be to see this as a happy ending, and he doubts that person and the madam will find common ground soon. Serena simply replies that it should be fine, because she has him. A young woman with dark hair tied back is startled to learn about a marriage proposal for someone named Rosemary. The scene transitions to a garden where she, another young girl, and an older woman are having tea. A man stands nearby as the older woman explains that Rosemary has received an offer of engagement, although it has not been finalized yet. The other woman at the table expresses her surprise, wondering why a prince would want to marry Rosemary. Hearing this, the first young woman looks completely shocked as she pauses with her teacup midway to her lips. The younger girl with twin tails then addresses her big sister, Serena, telling her not to be jealous just because the prince did not choose her. Serena, looking concerned, turns to the older woman and questions if this is truly a great development. The woman, identified as their mother, confirms that the offer is indeed from the second Prince Heinrich. A distressed Serena pleads with her mother, asking what she just said and begging her not to accept the proposal from the prince. Serena worries internally, questioning if her family understands the gravity of the situation. She recalls that Prince Heinrich's mother is a very ambitious concubine who plans to make her son the next king by removing the first prince from the line of succession. A diagram visually represents the political divide between the concubine faction and the queen faction. Serena understands that their family's neutrality in this conflict is what maintains the delicate peace among the divided nobles. Becoming more frantic, Serena argues that accepting the proposal would mean their house is no longer neutral. She insists that this must not happen and that such a major decision should not be made while the head of the house is away. However, her mother simply tells her not to be so dramatic while her younger sister asks her to stop saying weird things and interfering with her happiness. Serena looks down in defeat, realizing that her advice had no effect at all. Later, Serena sighs to herself, admitting she never thought any fool would actually want to marry Rosemary. Now that Rosemary and Prince Heinrich are officially engaged, Serena's mind races with the potential consequences. She believes the prince's mother is only after their family's fortune. Having heard the concubine is a noble supremacist, Serena is certain she would never allow a child to be conceived and will ensure Rosemary is either a wife in name only or killed once Heinrich takes the throne. Serena concludes that this is the worst possible outcome, as it will drag not only Rosemary but their entire house into the political turmoil. Elsewhere, Prince Heinrich complains to his mother, asking why he has to marry a commoner girl. He argues that if their target is the Violet Duchy, there are more suitable blue-blooded options, suggesting the beautiful Serena as an alternative. His mother calmly tells him to relax, clarifying that her goal is to secure their fortune, not for him to have a child with the girl she calls a gutter rat. The concubine further explains that Serena Violet is reportedly an outsider in her own home and is far too intelligent for their plans. She mentions that even Serena's own mother favors the other girl, remarking that these lesser beings seem quite cunning. The concubine's intuition tells her they need someone stupid who can be easily controlled, not someone smart like Serena. Heinrich is shocked to realize they are intentionally choosing the lowly girl over Serena. Sometime later, a blonde man who is the head of the house returns and angrily confronts a woman, demanding to know why she agreed to a marriage without his consent. The woman seems confused by his anger, believing it to be an excellent match. He furiously explains that it is a terrible idea when considering the reputation of the concubine and the prince, along with the entire political situation at the royal court. He sighs, telling her that just because the partner is from a higher station does not make it a good marriage, especially for Rosemary. Serena reflects on the situation, thinking that there's no guarantee of how a commoner would be treated and that the royal family could easily strong-arm them by saying they are doing them a favor. This is why Rosemary should have been more careful in choosing a partner. However, now that the engagement to a royal is set, it cannot be easily broken, and it will certainly have future implications. Her father then instructs Rosemary to maintain a distance from the royal family as they try to delicately balance their relationships with the nobles and the concubine, and Rosemary nervously agrees. The father then turns to Serena, apologizing and asking for her help to maintain their house's neutrality. Serena quietly agrees. In her room, Serena holds a packed suitcase and announces to someone named Tiger that they are leaving. A man's voice asks Lady Serena if she is serious. As Serena climbs out her bedroom window, she replies that she feels sorry for her father but cannot deal with the situation any longer and can live perfectly fine without being a noble. Just then, a man with long reddish hair appears below, remarking on her amusing way of leaving home. He asks where she is going and offers to escort her, introducing himself as Your Majesty Evan Encounter. The light-haired man, with a pleasant smile, invites the two of them to have a chat, gesturing for them to follow. The dark-haired woman looks on with a worried expression, while her companion whispers to her, contemplating whether they should just kill him and wishing the situation could be resolved more easily. Soon after, they are all seated inside a moving carriage, where the light-haired man leans back and casually asks what they want from him, noting that they seem to be busy running away from home. From inside the carriage, which onlookers recognize by its royal sigil as belonging to Prince Evan, the prince continues his questioning. He remarks that he never expected a young lady of her standing to be jumping out of a window with only a single suitcase and one attendant. The prince then looks at her intently and asks if her reason for fleeing is perhaps because of the engagement between her sister and his own stupid little brother, a question that clearly catches the dark-haired woman by surprise. The woman gives a slight smile, finding the prince's thought amusing, while her companion sternly asks Prince Evan what the real purpose of his visit is. The prince cheerfully explains that he thought it would be quicker to ask her directly what her sister is like. As this exchange happens, the dark-haired man thinks to himself that although the prince has a kind face, he is completely unreadable and is the type of person he hates dealing with. The woman considers the prince's words for a moment before firmly responding with a simple, no. Inside her thoughts, she recalls that the prince said he wanted to meet her and that their carriage is now heading directly to the royal palace. Prince Evan watches her expression and gently asks if she has made up her mind. The dark-haired woman correctly deduces Prince Evan's strategy is to be seen publicly with her as much as possible, which would show everyone that her influential family, the Violet House, is remaining neutral in the royal succession crisis. She understands the political gravity of the situation, realizing that if her wealthy house were to back the second prince, it would draw many other nobles to his faction, which would only intensify the tensions and could even lead to the kingdom being divided into two. Prince Evan compliments her on how sharp she is and admits that when he first saw her, he suspected she might be an assassin sent by the concubine's faction. He explains that she didn't have the adoring look of other girls but instead had the eyes of a killer, which he found intriguing. He casually adds that as a prince, it is natural that many people would want him dead. The woman claims that she is just a normal duke's daughter, but Prince Evan replies that saying so only makes her more suspicious. Her dark-haired companion explains that he had already warned his mother and sister about the dangers of the succession crisis and would rather not get involved. The prince then wonders aloud if the situation was truly so extreme that they had to run away. The woman states firmly that she has no obligation to follow her family to their ruin and that it is far more logical for her to build a new life as a commoner, since staying would likely end with her being executed. Prince Evan dismisses her plan to live as a commoner, telling her that a real duke's daughter wouldn't be able to survive because they can't even change their own clothes. He advises her to keep that in mind if she plans to continue pretending to be a noble, which causes her to wonder if he is suggesting that she isn't a real noble at all. Suddenly, a memory flashes in the woman's mind as she realizes why the prince's face seemed so familiar. A horrifying thought crosses her mind that he might somehow know about her past life as an assassin, because he looks exactly like the knight who killed her. While she is lost in thought, Prince Evan offers her a deal, promising that he isn't asking for her help for free and will provide her with a reward when everything is over, even guaranteeing that he will protect her from being executed. The woman internally weighs her options, acknowledging that she has nowhere else to go and that this is a second chance at life she should live to the fullest. Prince Evan presses for her answer, and she decides to accept his risky offer, believing she has her own form of insurance. She agrees to his proposal on one condition: she wants a written contract to make their deal official. Prince Evan flashes a bright, triumphant smile and happily says, "Deal." Beside the woman, her dark-haired companion looks on with a resigned expression, accepting that the situation can't be helped. As their carriage approaches a grand castle, the woman silently resolves to do her best, even if it's only for a short amount of time. Rick shyly asks Lady Serena what kind of people she likes, explaining that he wants to do his best so she will like him. Serena seems surprised and confused by the question, admitting she has never really thought about it before and wonders if it is simply the opposite of the type of people she dislikes. She mentally pictures a bratty, noisy, and stupid person as the type she hates. After a moment of contemplation, Serena decides that she probably likes a strong person who is also reliable and quiet. Rick has a sudden, shocked realization that Lady Serena must like mature men, but Serena immediately senses his impolite thought and calls him out on it. Later, Rick sits at a table with a large plate of food in front of him, looking overwhelmed by the portion size. Serena explains that his growth has been stunted by malnutrition and encourages him to eat all he can, at least until he looks the same age as her, since she is 4 years older. Determined to become the type of man Serena likes, Rick begins to eat enthusiastically with the goal of getting bigger. As Serena watches him, she reflects on the importance of food, remembering that she was also malnourished in her past life. Through his dedicated efforts, Rick eventually grows to an average height of 184 centimeters. A man named Tiger then asks Rick how he usually exercises, a question that leaves Rick looking confused. Tiger then observes a quiet, light-haired girl named Shia, remarking to Rick that she is even more silent than Lady Serena. He happily pats Shia on the head and comments that she seems happy to have people her age around, but Rick admits he cannot see any sign of her happiness at all. Tiger adds that Shia and Serena get along swimmingly, which surprises Rick. Serena, while sipping her tea, confirms that what Tiger said is true. Serena explains that she finds talking with Shia to be stress-free because, unlike other aristocratic daughters, Shia's speech contains no sarcasm or nonsense. Hearing this, Rick has a sudden epiphany and realizes that Shia must be the strong and silent type that he needs to learn from. He then turns to a very confused-looking Shia and, with a notebook and pen in hand, earnestly begs her to teach him, calling her master. A formal agreement is being finalized where one party is asked to act friendly towards the other, with the hint that their relationship could become more than just an act. Later, a man named Tiger stands with a very intense look, prompting a blonde-haired prince to apologize to Lady Serena for his intimidating appearance. Serena herself feels that his powerful gaze could have killed her twice over. As their business concludes, Tiger suggests it is time for them to leave, and Serena agrees with his assessment. The prince kindly informs Serena that a carriage is conveniently available to take her home, which puzzles her. He then clarifies that this is one of the perks her sister receives as the fiancée of the second prince. Elsewhere, Serena's sister, Rosemary, is shown reveling in her new status, feeling like a princess surrounded by royal maids and knights. However, Tiger reveals to Serena that these attendants are not there to serve her sister but to keep her under surveillance, a reality Rosemary seems oblivious to. As Serena and Tiger walk away, Serena decides it's not her concern as long as they don't bother her and heads back to her room. In her own chambers, Rosemary sits in frustration, annoyed that while everyone else treats her with newfound respect due to her engagement, her sister Serena's behavior towards her remains unchanged. She angrily wonders how long Serena will continue to look down on her, just as her maid, Marin, arrives with tea. Rosemary asks Marin if there has been any reply from Prince Heinrich to her letter, but Marin confirms there hasn't been one yet. Rosemary recalls that she hasn't seen the prince since their initial meeting at a tea party, and all their marriage arrangements have been handled through messengers. She concludes that he must be very busy, and Marin nervously agrees. Deciding to take action, Rosemary tells Marin she will write another letter to the prince to express her desire to meet him. Marin encourages this, believing His Highness would be pleased. Rosemary then privately reflects on her belief that this engagement has raised her status above Serena's and vows to make her sister understand the implications of her new position. The scene then shows a letter being delivered to a prince at his castle. This prince, Heinrich, is seen in a furious rage, shouting Rosemary's name and cursing her nerve. He impatiently demands to know if there is any reply from Serena, only to be told by a frightened attendant that there is none. Meanwhile, Serena is looking at a pile of letters in her room as a maid notes how many she has recently received from Prince Heinrich. The letters are filled with overly sentimental phrases like, "I want to meet you so badly," and "I'm on your side," which Serena finds so unbearable that she decides to ignore them completely. She muses that she knew the prince was a womanizer, but she is still shocked by the cringeworthy content he sends to his fiancée's sister and questions his motives. Her thoughts are interrupted when a maid brings her a meal, claiming it is an order from Lady Rosemary, which confuses Serena as she hadn't requested any food. Serena recognizes the maid as Marin and questions why she is acting as Rosemary's personal attendant when she is employed by the House of Violet. As Serena uncovers the dish, Tiger angrily begins to confront the maid. The meal is revealed to be nothing more than dry, moldy bread and a soup that looks like warm water, a meal Serena notes is worse than what a commoner would eat. She turns to the terrified maid, suggesting she must have been unaware of what she was delivering, implying severe consequences if she knew. In a sudden, intimidating move, Serena grabs the frightened maid's face, leans in close, and menacingly asks what punishment she was expecting for carrying out such an insulting order. Serena and Tiger stand together as another girl accuses a maid of barging into her room without permission and trying to force her to eat something she calls filth. The girl then claims the maid was following orders given by Rosemary, who looks completely shocked by the accusation. Rosemary becomes flustered and strongly denies that she would ever do such a thing while questioning why the girl would make such a claim. Serena observes this and thinks to herself that Rosemary is far too weak. Serena calmly takes control of the situation and asks if this means the maid acted alone, committing the serious offenses of entering a ducal daughter's room without permission and insulting her. With a serious expression, Serena declares that the maid will be whipped and her employment will be terminated, which causes the maid to look on in absolute terror. Rosemary desperately pleads for the maid not to be punished, looking very distressed. Meanwhile, the girl who made the initial accusation smiles slyly and questions Serena's cold-heartedness, suggesting a whipping is too extreme. Another woman also agrees that the punishment seems a bit too severe. Serena, however, remains resolute with her arms crossed, explaining that this is the customary punishment for someone who insults a noble. She argues that if they don't punish the maid, it would set a bad example and encourage others to act the same way. Serena further justifies her decision by stating that the death sentence for disrespecting royalty isn't unheard of, making a whipping seem like a minimal sentence in comparison. She then sarcastically asks if the girl is glad she possesses some mercy in her supposedly cold heart, leaving the girl looking stunned and speechless. Following the confrontation, the maid named Marin was whipped for her actions. Other maids are seen whispering among themselves, believing that after such an event, no one would dare to support Rosemary. The story then shifts as Serena confronts the girl again, asking what she is holding. The scene cuts to Serena, Rosemary, and Tiger walking purposefully into a room as onlookers express their surprise. Suddenly, the liquid from a cup is thrown, splashing all over the girl and causing her to fall backward with a shocked expression while Tiger looks on in disbelief. Serena closes her eyes for a moment, thinking that this feels familiar, as if she has done this before. Serena then calmly informs the disheveled girl that what she served was muddy water, not tea. The girl furiously denies this from the floor, shouting that she never served muddy water. With a smug smile, Serena remarks that the future princess consort apparently doesn't know the difference between tea and muddy water and that she should consider this a lesson. Serena presses further, asking which maid she intends to blame this time. The girl panics, insisting she knows nothing before trying to threaten Serena by claiming His Majesty dotes on her and will punish Serena once he finds out what happened. Serena appears genuinely surprised to hear the claim that the prince dotes on the girl. Serena dismisses the threat, stating that Prince Heinrich has never shown any interest in Rosemary and advising the girl not to cling to false hopes that will only hurt her in the end. The girl is left crushed and speechless, weakly muttering that she is loved as Serena and Tiger turn to leave. The narrator explains that the rumors of this incident spread like wildfire, and soon, Serena became known throughout the nobility and among the maids as a villainess who bullies the weak. A quiet stroll down a grand corridor is interrupted by the hushed whispers of nearby maids who watch a serious-looking young man named Tiger and a calm young woman walk past. Tiger, filled with concern, turns to his companion and asks why she remains so silent and withdrawn. The girl, whose name is Serena, looks away with a knowing sadness, thinking to herself that speaking is useless since people only believe what they want to believe, and the truth can be easily twisted depending on who is telling the story. Their path is suddenly blocked by an arrogant, blonde-haired knight who aggressively demands to know who Tiger is to address a noble heiress in such a common way. He warns them to show proper respect, declaring that Lady Rosemary is destined for a royal marriage and they will regret any insolence. The knight proudly announces that he is assigned to protect Lady Rosemary, who is about to marry into the royal family, and he scoffs as if he has nothing to worry about, asking if they aren't more concerned for themselves. Tiger's face contorts with rage and he starts to move forward, but Serena calmly holds out a hand, telling him to stay put. With a look of resignation, Serena comments on how unpopular she seems to be, while a frustrated Tiger notes that the knight is purposefully ignoring the truth of the situation. The knight smirks with disdain, reflecting on his hatred for people who believe their actions are justified simply because they are serving their own brand of justice. Serena then cleverly taunts him, sarcastically remarking that she was unaware that His Majesty Heinrich's leash was held by his fiancée and her knights. Stunned by her audacity, the knight explodes in anger, questioning how she dares to speak ill of His Highness. Serena continues to press him with a playful giggle, pointing out that all of his threats are clearly backed by the prince's authority, which must mean the prince approves of his behavior. Pushed past his limit, the knight furiously calls her a brat and strikes her with a powerful punch, sending her flying across the hall. Tiger screams Serena's name in absolute horror, his face a mask of shock, as the maids in the background gasp in unison. The knight points a finger at the fallen Serena, threatening that she won't escape unharmed if she continues her defiance. But in a stunning turn of events, Serena recovers with lightning speed, drawing a sword in a flash. Before the knight can react, she brings the weapon down, forcing him to his knees in a single, powerful motion. Serena now stands over the defeated knight, her sword held steady as she coldly tells him to know his place. She leans in and warns him that if there is a next time, she will ensure he doesn't live long enough to feel regret. Just then, another knight arrives on the scene, asking what is happening. The new knight approaches Serena, asking if she is also one of Rosemary's knights before noticing the red mark on her face with great alarm. Instantly, Serena's demeanor shifts to that of a frightened victim, and with tears in her eyes, she points to the knight on the floor, claiming he hit her simply because of rumors that she was mean to her sister. The blonde knight desperately denies it, but the new knight furiously confronts him, demanding to know why he would raise a hand against the daughter of a duke and why his sword was drawn when there was no apparent danger. The defeated knight realizes with dawning horror that he was the one threatened with a sword, but no one would ever believe such a truth. He understands that the idea of a pampered duke's daughter being skilled enough to draw a sword is too unbelievable for anyone to accept. The second knight bows deeply to Lady Serena, apologizing for the incident and promising to report the man and see him punished to the fullest extent of the law. As Tiger suggests they treat her wound, Serena simply agrees and tells the knight she will leave the matter in his hands. In the quiet aftermath, Tiger looks on with a deeply troubled expression while Serena stares forward, her face cold and resolute despite the mark on her cheek. A young man with dark hair sighs heavily as his cheek shows a fresh wound while a concerned young woman named Lady Serena carefully tends to his injury. She expresses that he shouldn't be angry about getting hurt because protecting her is not his responsibility, and she reminds him that he is her butler, not a bodyguard, and that she had ordered him not to move in the first place. The butler explains that his wound was a worthwhile price for dealing with some annoying individuals and reassures her that they were not royal knights since harming one would have been too severe an action. He then clarifies that his concern for her is not based on their positions or duties but because she is precious to him and he simply does not want to see her harmed. The word precious, causes Lady Serena to pause and reflect on a past event where she couldn't understand a knight's actions. She remembers this blonde knight who did not run away even though he knew he was going to die, and he fought to the very end to protect someone else who wasn't even in danger. She recalls wondering why someone would throw their life away for another person, as she believed humans were creatures that valued themselves above all else. She had thought she was making strategic decisions, but now admits she didn't truly understand the knight's motivations when he simply said he understood her orders. The scene then shifts to that same blonde knight walking down a dark city street at night, feeling utterly disgraced after being dishonorably discharged. He shouts in frustration about how much he had to endure to achieve his position and angrily curses Serena Violet, calling her a monster who is even worse than the rumors suggest. Suddenly, a mysterious figure wearing a dark mask confronts him, and the discharged knight, startled, calls him a creep and assumes he is a thief. This masked man, who is actually the butler Tiger, mutters to himself that Lady Serena told him to leave the man alone, but that he feels unsatisfied with that command, and as the knight threatens that he will remember this moment, Tiger coldly tells him that he will not. The knight tries to assert his authority as a proud knight of His Majesty Heinrich, but is met with an ominous silence before he lets out a final, terrified scream. The next day, a crowd has gathered and gossips about a murder that occurred in the back alleys where a corpse was discovered. The people mention that the victim's face was so badly damaged that he couldn't be identified, leading one person to wonder if it was a robbery gone wrong, while Lady Serena quietly listens from the edge of the group. Elsewhere, Tiger reflects on his past, remembering a time when as a child he feared the inherited power of his clan because he believed murder was wrong. Now, however, he feels no fear and believes that no sin is too terrible if it is committed to protect Lady Serena from harm. Just then, Serena approaches and asks him if something has happened. She notes that he seems to be in a particularly good mood, and Tiger replies that there was a person he disliked, but he dealt with the problem the previous night and now feels completely refreshed, leaving Serena to simply tell him to take care of himself. A young lady with bows in her hair bursts into a room with great frustration, shouting at her big sister and calling her the worst for supposedly sending her knights away. The younger sister, with a distressed expression, assumes this was done out of jealousy over her engagement to the prince, while the older sister, Serena, remains calm and wonders about the sudden intrusion. Serena logically explains that a duke's daughter wouldn't have the authority to dismiss a royal knight, questioning her sister's understanding given her royal engagement. Later, a man delivers a letter to Lady Serena, and she wonders to herself if it's another one from His Majesty Heinrich. The man confirms it is not from him, and as Serena reads the contents, she is visibly shocked by what it says. The following day, Majesty Evan and Highness Heinrich make a formal visit to the duchy, and a woman who appears to be the sister's mother asks her two daughters to give the guests a tour of the manor. The younger sister excitedly agrees with a cheerful okay, while Serena quietly says yes, feeling a sense of dread that something is about to go wrong. The younger sister immediately clings to her fiancé, Heinrich, expressing how happy she is that he finally came to see her. Serena recalls the letter from the previous day, which was from Heinrich announcing his visit, and she thinks about how she had informed Evan about receiving letters from him. She understands her sister's excited reaction since Heinrich has been ignoring her, but she is still worried about how aggressively she is clinging to him. While they walk, Evan comments on how passionate Serena's little sister is, and Serena asks him why he decided to come along. Evan replies that the reason is obvious, leading Serena to correctly guess that he is there to prevent nobles from getting the impression that their house is aligned only with Heinrich. Evan cheerfully explains he simply heard Heinrich was coming and decided to join him, though Serena internally suspects he has spies keeping an eye on Heinrich. Evan then asks Serena what she did with the letters Heinrich sent her, and she nonchalantly admits she destroyed them all. She reasons that if she doesn't read them, it's the same as never receiving them in the first place. Evan points out that the messenger who delivered the letters could be punished for her actions, but Serena coldly states that it's none of her concern and is simply the messenger's luck, or lack thereof. Evan calls her cruel, but Serena replies that she only lives for herself and tells him that if he wants to save the messenger, he can do it himself. Evan then tells Serena that he finds her to be very special and not at all like a typical noble's daughter, so much so that he had one of his underlings investigate her. He admits that at first, he thought someone might have killed the real Serena and taken her place. However, he dismisses the idea of her being an assassin masquerading as a noble because anyone skilled enough to do that would act more normally, and she is far too odd to be a plant. Serena internally scoffs at the idea, thinking she is not some third-rate assassin. Their private conversation is suddenly interrupted by Heinrich, who calls out and asks how long they plan to whisper to each other. Heinrich approaches Serena and expresses his relief at finally meeting her, explaining he was worried since she never responded to any of his letters. This confuses the younger sister, who exclaims that she was the one who didn't receive any letters and wonders if they were sent to her big sister instead. With a pleasant smile, Serena feigns ignorance and asks what they could be talking about, especially in front of Heinrich's own fiancé. Evan intervenes, telling Heinrich there's no reason for him to be corresponding with Serena when he's engaged to her sister, Rosemary, which makes Rosemary suspect her sister is interfering. A tense atmosphere develops as Heinrich claims he was simply trying to build a better relationship with his future sister-in-law. Evan fires back, pointing out that Heinrich hasn't seen his actual fiancée even once since their engagement 6 months ago. He sarcastically questions if Heinrich would rather have a closer relationship with the sister than his own fiancée, alluding to the many rumors about Heinrich playing around. In response, Heinrich can only vaguely state that he was busy with stuff. A serious discussion begins about the need for careful conduct to avoid misunderstandings that could harm Lady Serena's reputation. In a close-up image, a surprised Rosemary, with her hair in pigtails held by a black bow, learns that the conversation concerns her too. The blonde-haired Evan then appears behind a confused Rosemary, whose back is to him, and he warns her against starting unnecessary rumors based on her own assumptions. The story then shows a flashback where Rosemary is seen at a tea party with other noble daughters, and it's revealed that she has been bad-mouthing Serena to them ever since her engagement. The narrator realizes that Evan was aware of this behavior all along, and it's explained that Rosemary's friends were not actually believing her but were just making fun of her instead. The scene returns to the present where Rosemary is crying with tears streaming down her face, telling Evan he is horrible for saying she has no friends. Beside her, a calm Serena watches and internally notes that her sister has started her waterworks, wondering if even Evan would fall for her tears. Evan simply offers a gentle smile and tells Rosemary to consider his words as friendly advice for her future social interactions. He then turns away, suggesting they should leave before the tea gets cold, leaving Rosemary looking flustered in the background. The subsequent tea party is described as a disaster, where a cheerful Heinrich with spiky brown hair became the center of attention, as Rosemary was determined to keep him focused only on her. The situation grew more chaotic as a smiling Evan also vied for Serena's attention by constantly asking her questions, while a moody man named Tiger loomed over them with a dark expression throughout the entire event. A worried-looking Serena is shown holding her teacup, hoping never to experience such a troublesome party again. Her hopes for peace were short-lived, as a laughing man with a braided ponytail and a fur coat soon appeared. He excitedly approaches Lady Serena and asks about the rumors of her and her sister fighting over Heinrich. He gleefully explains that the story of Heinrich relentlessly pursuing her with letters and tea parties has become popular gossip among the nobility. A frustrated Serena holds her head in her hands, sighing that of course he knew about it. She tells him to stop spreading unpleasant gossip, calling him a scary mutt while noting that he always seems to arrive with His Majesty, Evan. The narrative continues, showing that Evan and Heinrich have been visiting Serena more and more often, much to her exhaustion. She finds her sister Rosemary's presence during these visits annoying as well. Serena observes that His Highness Evan doesn't bother to correct every one of Rosemary's mistakes, like how she impolitely sits down before the prince does. This leads Serena to wonder if the kingdom's royals are just unusually tolerant, and she admits that she has started to act more relaxed around Evan lately. Later, Serena is praised for doing a splendid job in keeping the political factions balanced through this complicated situation, and she considers asking for an extra reward. She has a moment of realization, remembering that the gaudy man who spreads gossip is also a member of the royal family, a fact she nearly forgot. The story concludes with an image of Serena in a beautiful black dress, reflecting on how time went on with the constant presence of the two princes and her foolish sister, and before she knew it, a few years had passed. Serena arrives at a grand and imposing academy building, her thoughts turning to the cat-eared boy she left behind. From her point of view, the boy looks heartbroken as he dreads the life he must now live without her, feeling as though he's a pet left at home while its owner goes on vacation. As he despairs, Serena's younger sister, Rosemary, excitedly calls out to her, eager to enter the academy grounds, while Serena calmly tries to soothe the distraught boy. Once inside, Serena and Rosemary are seen walking with a dark-haired young man among other new students. It is explained that upon turning 16, the two sisters were sent to this academy for young nobles. The main goal for the nobility is to forge new connections and learn the ways of society, and Serena, having never attended a formal school, was quite interested in the experience. As the sisters walk away into the crowd, the cat-eared boy watches them go with a sad and lonely expression. Suddenly, Serena and Rosemary are stopped when an unseen person declares that commoners are not welcome there, causing them both to turn in surprise. The person who spoke is a blonde girl named Lady Scarnet, who approaches Serena and comments that it has been a while since they last met. Scarnet then mentions that she has heard rumors about Serena becoming quite friendly with Prince Evan lately. Serena appears confused as she tries to place the girl's face, wondering if Scarnet has mistaken her for Rosemary. Scarnet ignores her confusion and presses on, saying she would love to know exactly what Serena did to get closer to the prince. She then adds that she has no intention of missing the prince's upcoming speech and suggests they should all go. Later, during the freshman address, a handsome blonde young man named Evan Estert stands at a podium representing the new students. In the audience, Lady Scarnet stares at him with sparkling eyes and a blush, completely captivated by his elegance. Serena sits beside her looking unimpressed, having realized that Scarnet's animosity stems from jealousy over her friendship with Evan. Elsewhere in the crowd, other students whisper among themselves, pointing out Rosemary and wondering if she is the commoner they have heard about. The gossip continues as students discuss the unlikeliness of a relationship between a prince and a commoner, calling it a silly fairy tale. One notes that the other prince is the son of a concubine and will not inherit the throne, meaning he will lose his royal status once Evan becomes king. However, another student points out that the political situation could easily change if something unfortunate were to happen to Prince Evan. They remark on how shrewd the concubine is and conclude it would be wise to get on the good side of her daughter, Lady Rosemary, who overhears their entire conversation. After the ceremony, a group of students quickly surrounds Rosemary. A young man greets her warmly, saying he has heard much about her and would like to become her friend, an offer she happily accepts. The other students then eagerly crowd in, asking what she and His Highness usually talk about, which seems to overwhelm her a bit. Just then, someone in the crowd spots another royal approaching and excitedly announces the arrival of His Highness Einrich. Prince Einrich is seen charming a group of young women, telling one how cute she is. Observing from a distance, Rosemary thinks he seems like a very friendly person who is just excited to meet new people. She privately reflects that he never responds to her letters and that whenever he is near, he only ever speaks to her sister. Suddenly, Prince Einrich spots Serena and calls out her name, and the students around Rosemary excitedly point out that the prince has noticed their group. He runs over and expresses how happy he is to be attending the academy with Serena. In response, Serena smoothly introduces Rosemary, stating she is glad he will now be able to see her sister frequently as well. This gesture seems to annoy Rosemary, who clenches her fist. The scene then concludes with Prince Evan smiling warmly at Serena, thanking her for skillfully handling the situation with his brother. A smiling Prince Evan expresses his relief and gratitude towards a dark-haired girl, explaining that he was worried about dealing with his brother's actions but everything turned out well because of her. He is genuinely happy for the opportunity to attend school with her, while she looks back at him with a somewhat blank expression. The girl then questions if one's school partner truly impacts their academic performance, a thought that seems to puzzle the prince. Prince Evan changes the subject, asking why she is all alone and pointing out that the atmosphere was a bit suffocating. He recalls that she was also avoiding the crowd when they first met and asks if she dislikes large groups of people. She quietly confirms that she does. Internally, she reflects on her dislike for crowds, especially when she becomes the center of attention. She remembers that in her previous life as an assassin, her goal was to remain unnoticed, but in her current life, she seems to attract infamy without even trying. The prince continues the conversation, acknowledging that with her position as a duke's daughter and their recent involvement, she must be receiving a lot of unwanted attention. He mentions that many people were staring at her as if they were on the edge of their seats, commenting on how beautiful she has become, which seems to catch her by surprise. He adds that while she is incredibly aware of everything around her, she appears to be completely blind to her own qualities. Stunned, she asks if he is being serious and deflects by saying the attention is probably just due to the rumors surrounding her. Feeling flustered, the girl states that she dislikes these kinds of conversations and doesn't understand them. Their talk is suddenly interrupted when a guard is seen rushing towards them, calling out for His Highness Evan. As the guard approaches with hostile intent, the girl instinctively steps in front of Prince Evan to protect him. The aggressor is surprised and mutters that he thought the prince was just some unfamiliar face, but now suspects he is a man paid by her. Prince Evan sighs, expressing his disappointment that he couldn't avoid this sort of trouble at school. The girl internally assesses the attacker, deeming him a mere sacrificial pawn and not a significant threat. She feels a strong urge to kill him but holds back since Prince Evan is present. The prince calmly tells the man to reconsider his actions. Before the situation can escalate, another man named Tiger dramatically intervenes, striking the ground and furiously warning the attacker not to get near Lady Serena. A flustered Tiger apologizes to Serena, explaining he was just observing for a moment before returning to her side. Serena admits she didn't notice him because of all the attention she was receiving and playfully asks if he fell out of a tree. She tells him to be careful and not get caught, which makes him blush as he thanks her profusely. With a new scratch on his cheek, Tiger solemnly vows to always protect Lady Serena, as Prince Evan watches them quietly. After the commotion, Prince Evan remarks that they will need to deal with the attacker soon, and Tiger agrees that they should call the real guards. The prince then turns to Serena, thanking her for saving him and asking how she sensed the danger. Serena, looking slightly surprised, replies that her reaction was just by chance. However, she privately wonders why her body moved to protect him when she herself was not in any danger. She questions if it was an instinctual reaction to sensing the man's malice, feeling that this world is filled with things she simply cannot comprehend. Just then, the prince's official guards arrive, and as Prince Evan waves to them, Serena quickly instructs Tiger to hide. Amidst the chaos, she looks ahead and wonders if attending this school will eventually help her understand the mysteries of her new life. Serena's mother looking on with a concerned expression as she asks about her other daughter, Rosemary. From a distance, she watches Serena walk alongside a man in a long coat. Serena explains that Rosemary has already gone to the academy, mentioning that her new so-called friends came to pick her up from their home. The mother clasps her hands together with a happy smile, expressing her gladness that Rosemary is fitting in so well with the crowd. She then turns her attention to Serena, asking if she has also gotten used to school life. Serena simply replies that she isn't facing any issues. As Serena walks away with her companion, she thinks to herself about the conversation, wondering why her mother looked so unsatisfied even after she had reassured her. Her companion remarks on what an awfully awkward mother-daughter talk that was. The scene shifts back to the mother, who stands by a doorway waving goodbye, though her expression is filled with sadness. Her inner thoughts reveal a deep-seated trouble, as she feels her daughter Serena's smile never truly reaches her eyes. She finds herself questioning if Serena is even her real daughter, a foolish thought she acknowledges, as she knows she gave birth to her. Despite this, she admits she can never feel comfortable around her. The mother's memories drift back to Serena's childhood, recalling how her behavior was so adult-like that it was scary. A chibi-style image shows a baby Serena reading a book at the age of 1. The mother remembers the cold look in Serena's eyes and an incident where she mercilessly stabbed their dog, Bruce. She concludes with the sorrowful realization that she has never seen a real smile on her daughter's face, not even once since the day she was born. The mother wonders how it's humanly possible for a child to be this way, believing Serena grew up faking her smiles and that a dark abyss stares back from her eyes. The perspective then changes to Serena's point of view. A young man with cat-like ears blushes as he promises to do his best to watch over her, and Serena coolly tells him to try not to get caught. Serena walks through a grand hall at the academy, thinking that while a few months have passed and she's used to the life, it comes with quite a few annoyances to put up with. Just then, a voice calls out her name. The person who greeted her is the first prince, Evan Estert, one of the annoyances she was thinking about. Her thoughts explain that he got close to her to avoid the political fallout from his brothers, the second prince's engagement. Evan smiles and tells her she looks beautiful today as always. Serena internally laments how much she hates the awkward greetings from nobility and royalty. Evan chuckles and comments that she is as cold as ever. From a distance, a small, dark-haired figure, Tiger, watches them with a frustrated expression, sensing malice coming from somewhere. Serena then notices the biggest annoyance of all approaching. It is her sister, Rosemary, standing with a group of young men described as her army of friends. Rosemary looks towards her sister and Prince Evan with a cheerful expression. Serena observes that Rosemary has gotten used to the luxury that comes with being the second prince's fiancée and is now surrounded by nobles who would prefer an easily controllable person on the throne. Serena mentally notes how much her sister has gotten ahead of herself in just a few months. She publicly corrects Rosemary for her improper greeting and for addressing the prince by his first name without permission. Rosemary looks shocked and then retorts, asking if her big sister is jealous again and stating that she will eventually marry Lord Heinrich anyway. Serena continues to lecture her, reminding Rosemary that she is only a fiancée at the moment, not yet a member of the royal family, and that any noble worth their salt is expected to be well-mannered. In response, Rosemary's eyes fill with tears as she turns to Prince Evan for sympathy. She cries out that her sister always bullies her like this and complains to Evan that she will eventually be his sister-in-law, so it should be fine to call him by his name. Rosemary continues her act, claiming that Serena is forgetting her place and thinks she is worthy of becoming the next queen. She then leans in towards Evan, warning him that Serena has her sights on him and that treating her nicely might give her the wrong impression. However, Prince Evan does not look convinced. Instead, he turns to Rosemary with a stern and menacing glare, cutting her off. He coldly asks just who she thinks she is talking to, suggesting that perhaps she is the one who doesn't know her place. The man in a formal white uniform publicly confronts a young girl named Rosemary in front of a crowd. He sternly informs her that she does not have his permission to address him in such a familiar way and declares that she will never become part of the royal family. He further explains that another individual named Heinrich will be removed from the royal family and given a new title once he comes of age, while Serena, a woman with long black hair, stands nearby. The onlookers appear confused by this unexpected announcement. The crowd begins to whisper among themselves, questioning the kind of upbringing the Violet household provides since Rosemary seems completely unaware of these royal protocols. The man in the uniform continues, adding that any child between her and Heinrich would not be included in the line of succession. Rosemary looks utterly shocked by this news. A guest then remarks that it's irrelevant anyway because she lacks even a single drop of noble blood, causing Rosemary to blush with embarrassment as she nervously clutches a rose. Overwhelmed, Rosemary begins to cry, complaining that everyone is being cruel just because she used to be a commoner. A man with light-colored hair steps in to comfort her with a hug, as the crowd murmurs that she is clinging to someone who isn't even her fiancé. The man in the white uniform, identifying himself as Heinrich's elder brother, approaches the pair and apologizes for his brother's behavior. He then questions the comforting man's motives, asking if he orchestrated this flashy scene just to spite Heinrich, while warning him that such actions will not win him any affection. Heinrich's brother sternly advises the man to be careful with his methods. Meanwhile, someone in the crowd observes that Heinrich, who has dark hair, doesn't even give Rosemary a single glance. Heinrich then turns to Serena and says it is time for them to leave, and the two walk away together. As they depart, Serena silently wonders why Rosemary continues to cling to Heinrich so desperately. She recalls that Heinrich constantly entertains other noble ladies at school and that even when he visits their home, he ignores Rosemary and focuses all his attention on Serena. Serena speculates whether Rosemary's attachment is genuine love or simply a fear of losing the extravagant lifestyle she now enjoys. This train of thought leads her to ponder the very concept of love, a word she finds both obvious and perplexing. Serena's mind drifts back to her previous life, where she recalls many clients hiring her in the name of love, either seeking revenge for betrayal or trying to win back a lost lover. She doesn't understand why people obsess over something as intangible as love, viewing it as a frivolous and unnecessary part of life that one can easily live without. Later, while Serena is having tea, a dark-haired man with a scar on his face approaches her. He tells her that he has been confused about something for a while and asks directly why she hasn't gotten rid of her idiot sister, Rosemary. Serena calmly replies that she has considered that same question herself. She then admits, to be honest, she has been tempted to kill her sister at least 100 times already. The man is visibly shocked by her candid confession. Serena calmly explains her reasons for hesitating, mentioning that Rosemary is almost always with a witness whenever the thought crosses her mind, and ultimately, she isn't worth the trouble. She adds another significant reason, which is that their mother cherishes Rosemary for some unknown reason, and Serena would feel sorry for her mother if she were to take that away. The man insists that Serena should be more assertive about her own position in the family. Serena elaborates that she feels sorry for her mother precisely because she has a daughter like herself. She imagines that if she had never been born, her mother could have had a normal daughter instead. In her mind, this alternate daughter would be a pure, innocent girl, completely unaware of the world's darkness, who could share simple, happy conversations with her mother as a normal child would. A final image shows Serena and a woman resembling her mother standing back to back, symbolizing their emotional divide. Serena concludes that because of her past memories, she can never be the ideal daughter her mother might have wished for. She acknowledges that, in the end, she doesn't even know how to love her mother in the first place. In a grand classroom, the tranquil scene of Lady Serena reading a book is abruptly interrupted as she is confronted by a group of noblewomen. The group's assertive leader, Lady Scarlet, stands with her hands on her hips and demands to know why Serena's younger sister has been so disrespectful towards Lord Evan. The confrontation continues as one of Lady Scarlet's companions gossips that rumors are spreading throughout the school, with people calling Serena's sister a whore for entertaining many men while being engaged. Serena maintains a composed smile, internally acknowledging how embarrassing the situation sounds, while her expression hardens as she realizes her accusers are resorting to attacking her sister, a former commoner, because they cannot find fault with her own character. Lady Scarlet then directly criticizes the behavior, suggesting it is excessive even for the fiancé of Prince Heinrich. Lady Scarlet launches into a lengthy and passionate lecture, pointing dramatically at Serena as she speaks. She belittles the Violet household's standing despite it being a ducal house and criticizes Serena's own antisocial nature, claiming she has very few connections. She sternly warns Serena that relying solely on her family's name without putting in any effort will lead to future regrets. Throughout this tirade, Serena looks on with a calm and surprisingly impressed expression, while Lady Scarlet's followers clap in awe of her ability to speak for so long without taking a breath. Serena silently marvels at this unusual talent. One of Lady Scarlet's followers, annoyed by Serena's silence, calls her an idiot and demands she respond to the advice she was given. Serena calmly refutes the insult, explaining that she was merely impressed by Lady Scarlet's remarkable lung capacity. She then completely disarms the group by stating that she is of sound mind and fully agrees with every point Lady Scarlet made. Momentarily flustered by the unexpected agreement, Lady Scarlet collects herself with a slight cough, accepting Serena's understanding of the matter. Serena confirms that she has nothing to add to the flawless assessment. The conversation then shifts as Lady Scarlet remarks that she rarely sees Serena's sister, Lady Rosemary, together with Prince Heinrich, prompting her followers to whisper about the possibility of Rosemary being cast aside. Serena thoughtfully gazes into the distance and concurs that she too has noticed their infrequent appearances together, as the scene transitions to an elegant outdoor gazebo. Other noblewomen are shown discussing Lady Rosemary's behavior, judging her for surrounding herself with an entourage of young men. They speculate that she is trying to spite Prince Heinrich for his own flirtatious habits and express concern that her actions are unbecoming of a noble daughter. The story then reveals Prince Heinrich himself, lounging casually in the gazebo with several other women fawning over him. One woman asks to spend the night with him, while another insists it is her turn. The prince appears non-committal, mentioning he also has to meet with Serena, and when asked if he has been with Serena, he clarifies that he has not yet. At that moment, a distraught-looking Rosemary, her face flushed with anger, approaches the prince and his companions. One of the women mockingly comments on how scary Rosemary appears as Rosemary confronts them directly. She furiously yells at the women, whom she deems to be of low aristocracy, telling them they are unsuited for Lord Heinrich and demanding they leave him immediately. Prince Heinrich looks at Rosemary with a condescending smirk, questioning how a former commoner like her has the right to make such demands. He cruelly adds that the other women are at least true aristocrats with better manners than she has. Heartbroken, Rosemary reminds him that he was the one who chose her to be his bride over her sister, desperately asking if he did it because he loved her. The prince erupts in laughter, calling her an idiot for still believing in such a fantasy after so much time has passed. He then coldly reveals the truth. It was not his choice but his mother's decision to arrange their engagement. He reminds her that marriages for political gain are a standard practice among the nobility, leaving Rosemary in stunned silence. As Rosemary struggles to process this revelation, the prince looks down on her with irritation, telling her to know her place and questioning if he needs to explain every little thing to her. With a look of pure desperation and horror dawning on her face, Rosemary asks if he was serious when he implied that he preferred her sister over her. With a final, devastating blow, Prince Heinrich stares at her with a cold and unforgiving expression, confirming that it is obvious he feels that way. He then states plainly that he never liked her in the first place, leaving Rosemary completely and utterly shattered by the cruel truth.